Hey there, Chad Schimmel back in the shop, and today we are going to make a hybrid pen blank. Now this is when you take a piece of wood and mix it with resin. A lot of times these are called worthless woods because you're taking a piece of wood that maybe is a cutoff, it's too light, it's too spongy, whatever the case may be, that you wouldn't use it on its own, and you create a cool blank out of it using resin and the wood. So let's get started. So I'm happy to do this today because I've got a cool new mold here. If you have watched many of my videos, you'll see that I use these Fred Resin molds all the time, and I just got this cool 7/8 by 7/8 by 5 1/4 inch blank mold. Now, I have one of these that I made probably 5 or 6 years ago, maybe not that long, maybe 3 or 4 years ago, but it's a little worse for the wear. I've got pins holding tears together and all kinds of stuff. It still works, but it leaks all over the place. So I was really happy to get a hold of this new mold from Fred. I haven't found anything better than Fred's molds. I'll put a link in the description below, and I'll put a link to the tube-on molds, or the tube-in casting molds that I use and have in the store. But today we're gonna use this awesome new mold, first run. So let's see what we got. I'm gonna do 2 types of wood, and I'll show you this first one here. This is a piece of ash that I cut. I was making something and I cut off, it was a strip of ash, almost like a perfect pen blank size, and it had this crazy knot in it, which I thought looked cool, and I wanted to see how that would work for a worthless or hybrid casting. Now, what I did is, this is the original ash here. This was the end that I cut off. I soaked this in blue dye, and then I stabilized, and then I baked it, and then I stabilized it under vacuum in clear. And I didn't do the blue to get necessarily a blue color, but what it does is it really pops the grain out. So you can see here that going from this, I'll try to keep this in focus, where the grain is there but it's pretty plain, to this, that blue and then clear really gives it a lot of character in the grain, and I think that should show in the final turning. Hopefully I don't turn this and it's just brown again, but we'll see. So what I'm gonna do is, I've got this trimmed up to where it will perfectly fit in here, and it'll stick out a little bit, that way I can trim it off when I'm done. But I can stick it in here and then pour in my resin, and in this case I'm gonna use alumilite. I'll pour it in and then put it in the pressure pot to push that resin into the wood, and that's how we get a good adhesion to the wood. Now, alumilite is my resin of choice for this. I've never used polyester resin because it tends to foam and bubble when it's next to the wood. Alumilite by far is the best for this. The other blank I'm gonna make today in this mold is from this piece of maple. Now, I've dyed and stabilized this, and what you'll see here is we've got 2 really cool ends that kind of go well together. So I'm gonna cut this and then flip it around to where these 2 ends are like this in the mold together, and then the resin will be in the middle. And I think the way these ends are, it's gonna make a really cool looking blank, and then hopefully ultimately a cool pen. So I'm actually gonna try to go with more of a translucent resin here and not make it solid, because I wanna be able to see these jagged bumps and ripples in the wood. And this wood has a really cool grain to it, and there again it's blue, so it's gonna come out really nice. So I've got my piece cut. These are the 2 ends of that longer piece, and they fit nice and snug in the mold, so that shouldn't be a problem. I went ahead and found one more burly piece that's been stabilized and dyed, and I'm going to stick that in as well and put the rest resin. And then I had one more piece of ash that has a knot in it with a pretty good hole. It won't be as cool as this one with the big void, but it still might look cool in the end. So I'm going to go ahead and cast that one as well. So looking at these blanks, they came out really cool. The only one I don't really like is this one. The resin looks awesome, so I may turn it. But the other three, these are really cool looking. So I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna turn this one right now and see how it looks. And then this one, which is what I think probably the best one, let's do a giveaway. If you wanna try this, just put a put a comment below saying I want the blank, and I'll pick a winner out of all the people who say I want the blank, and then I'll send it to you and you can turn it and see how it looks. But overall, pretty successful hybrids, and I think they're gonna turn out pretty nice. So I'm gonna go ahead and spin this one, and I'll be back to show you what it looks like. So I've got this sanded. I went ahead and went through the micro mesh pads down to 12,000. I got it dry. I just let it sit and I used the air, whatever. But now I'm gonna put some finish on it, and you could do a CA finish on these. Hybrids are great with CAs. I've been doing a lot of choya and resin lately, and I've really liked the Doctor's Pens Plus for that. It kind of gives a shine to the resin, and it of course seals and finishes the wood, so it's kind of good for both, and it's really held up well. I've been using one for a couple weeks now to see how it held up on the choya. But I'm gonna go ahead and do that, and I've talked about the Doctors before. I like to get it warm. I feel like it helps it set up, and so I'm gonna go ahead and put the finish on and get this thing assembled. So there you have it, a magnetic Zen with a hybrid resin and wood blank. And this blank came out pretty cool. I had forgotten that I put red in the die, and the die came out pretty good in the wood. Got some red around the edges, which looks cool. And then the resin kind of came out like a earth and clouds, I guess. But it's see-through in some spots. I only did 2 color on the resin, white and blue, with some clear. And luckily I painted the tube white because it is clear through and you can see the white tube. But being that there's white in there, it looks actually like it was meant to be. So yay me. But anyway, that is how you make a hybrid resin and wood pen blank, or a worthless pen blank. I do want to say, remember that pressure pots are very dangerous. Please do not use them unless you know what you are doing. There's a lot of good videos out there. And I will put a link to Zach Higgins below. He does a lot of videos on pressure pots if you're interested in doing that. So please subscribe to the channel. Give me a thumbs up if you like the video. Oh, and don't forget, I'm going to give this blank away. I'll even pay the shipping in the US. If you're outside the US, you gotta pay the shipping. But just make a comment, I want the blank, or give me the blank, and I will draw. You know what, I'm gonna be out of town next week. I will draw the week I get back. So there's about a week, if you're watching this video, a week or 2, and I will give this blank away and somebody can turn it. So thanks again, talk to you later.